Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
Hey, how's it going?
And today we are talking about volume 25 of Kaguya-sama Love is War. The final arc is really well underway at this point, and the stakes are pretty high.
Yeah, fitting for a finale.
Absolutely. And actually, something that I really liked about this book, not about the content of the chapters themselves, although that was obviously is something that I really liked as well, but something else that I really liked about this volume is like all of these insightful little texts about love that were sprinkled like in between the chapters. Like I thought some of them, to me, some of them got me really emotional, and a lot of them I thought were like held some genuinely good wisdom.
Yeah, some of them I didn't really think about beforehand, and it was a nice way to get a different look on love and reality, really. Some things I thought were a little pessimistic or maybe a little against what I think, but it's nice to have different perspectives.
Yes.
And I don't think that they necessarily, well, it does have a tone of this is the right way. Everyone else is wrong. This is the right way. But I still think it's insightful and good to read, and I like it.
Yeah, and it's fitting with I guess at this part of the story. I feel like it's fitting, especially since this volume in general was far less comedic than the series has been as a whole overall, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for these pages too, instead of being like a little brief gag, which it has been largely before, it's just these texts with much more of a serious tone to them. It's fitting for this volume, I think.
Yeah, it matched the tone very well.
Very well. Let us talk about the characters in this volume, starting with Kaguya Shinomiya. We learned a little bit more about her mother in this volume than we knew prior to this. That she was Kaguya's father's mistress was a pretty big reveal. And we also learned her last name, which was Shimizu. And out of curiosity, I Google translated her last name to see what it means. And according to Google Translate, it means clear water or pure water.
I mean, it depends on the kanji, but yeah, that's right. Probably the most likely the correct one.
Gotcha. And so the moment I saw that, especially like the clear water meaning, it reminded me of the moment during the culture festival when Kaguya and Miyuki went to the fortune teller, where Yume Atembo, the fortune teller, said to Kaguya, "You're like the clear surface of water, clear water that changes colors as it reflects the shades of the sky. If you're with someone evil, you will become evil, but if you're with someone good, you will become good."
Oh, wow.
That was a quote by her back in volume 13, which coincidentally also had Maki on the cover. But anyway, this clear water, I guess, similarity is fun to see in her mother's last name as well as in that old description of Kaguya from way back then. So even though it's just kind of a vague thing, it's fun to see this, I guess, family similarity.
Yeah, that's kind of a deep cut that I didn't really think about. Although, if you watch the movie, I don't know, was that brought up in the movie? I can't remember.
I believe it was, though I can't remember specifically right now. But yeah, the movie has come out since last time we did a Kaguya-sama podcast, so
right.
that's something kind of new. But
so it's somewhat fresh.
Right.
Still, I totally forgot about that description. But yeah, that's a good call there. Yeah, I think it's interesting that her mom was not just a third wife or whatever. Like it was just she was a mistress, someone who was working in kind of the red light district, Ginza. So very interesting, and it kind of brings question to her bloodline, her origins. Really, is she really a Shinomiya?
Exactly. Yeah, her father seemed to have doubts about that, which I thought was really interesting. Like at the moment he started mentioning those types of doubts, I was wondering, what if Dr. Tanuma, Tsubasa's grandfather,
yeah,
because back, I can't remember when exactly, but there was a moment when he was talking about her, and also like a brief little panel of him gazing at the moon, thinking about Nayotake, and
Right.
What if he's Kaguya's dad?
I thought about that too, but I'm also like, isn't I guess age doesn't really matter too much, but isn't he the grandfather of Tsubasa? So it's like
He is, but Kaguya's real father is also about that age.
also pretty old, maybe probably older.
He's in his 80s, maybe 90s,
Yeah,
even potentially.
yeah. No, so that could be a very interesting twist.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, that would also mean, if that is the case, it would mean that Kaguya is not related to Maki. And they are so like they've made a point out of them being so similar because of them being related. So I don't know, that wouldn't hold any water anymore, kind of, if that was the case.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how I feel about this reveal. Like, it's very shocking and juicy, but it's like, why? what? Why now? And I mean, yes, to bring drama into it all, but and maybe there'll be something at the end. Like, I'm not saying I doubt the choice, but I am slightly questioning it.
Mm-hmm.
If that's okay, it's just I don't see the full picture, and I'm not sure why it's necessary to bring that up. Granted, we don't know how this will end, and this could potentially be used as a way to save her.
Right.
But I'm making it sound like I really don't like it. That's not the case. It just seemed a little like everything we knew about Kaguya it was taken away just briefly. It's like so it took me a while to accept it, but I'll be okay. It'll be fine.
Well, I mean, it's still like her upbringing is still a Shinomiya upbringing and all of that.
You're right. You're right.
So it doesn't change that much, except, well, yeah, I guess some of the stuff with Maki was stuff that I thought about. And I was also thinking about her brother Unyo, who I always thought looked kind of similar to Kaguya. Like they have the same eyes. And I feel like that would be a family resemblance. And now if it would turn out that she isn't Ganon's daughter, then yeah, then that wouldn't make a lot of sense either. But I don't know. It could just be like the gaze. Maybe like since she was raised essentially by her brother, maybe that's why they have the same gaze, kind of.
So if it does turn out to be that she's not a Shinomiya, which at this point it's like why even bring that up if it's not going to be the case? Why bring that shred of doubt into it?
Yeah.
I'm going back and forth on this. To the story's credit, they do need some way to get Kaguya free from the Shinomiya clan. And if this is this is the fact that she's not actually a Shinomiya, then maybe it's for the best. And I can't blame the story for bringing up that new thing. I guess it would have been nicer if it had been hinted at further along or earlier in the story, instead of just randomly right here right now.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Then again, it might just be a red herring in some way.
Yeah, you're right. That could be it as well.
And I was also thinking about the possibility of maybe the only reason for that, I guess, doubt in Ganon about whether or not Kaguya is his daughter or not. I was thinking a little bit about maybe that was just a way for Akasaka to show us that Ganon, in his own way, still cares about Kaguya. He doesn't care about whether she's his real daughter or not. He's still going to give her some of his property or money or whatever, his
inheritance.
Inheritance is the word. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Since we're talking about Ganon, it's like Akasaka really just in the brief screen time he had made me kind of sympathize for the guy in a way, or just see him in a different light. Like it's not that I don't think he isn't this corporate scumbag overlord thing. It's just that these characters are much more complicated. It have more depth to them than just evil head father guy.
Yeah.
And love was not something that I expected an emotion I expected to see out of Ganon.
Right. Yes. Definitely.
So that was quite interesting. It makes me
Very.
wonder, really, with Shimizu, what was his relation. I mean, he must have had some sort of feelings for her, but it's like, how did that happen? What happened
Yeah.
with the other wives? The world of the super rich can be quite complicated, I suppose. And
Yeah.
maybe this is a good job by Akasaka to try to convey that. But either
Mm.
way, yeah, it kind of made me think differently of Ganana. I still don't approve of a lot of his choices, or, you know, obviously the things he's done. But he's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Not as cold hearted, at least.
At the very least, not in the moments that we saw in this volume.
Right. Yeah. It could be just he's on his deathbed and he's being
Yeah.
sentimental.
Right. Maybe it is only that. But either way, about Kaguya Shinomiya, though, she is being forcibly married off,
Hey,
as we've
what
discussed.
what have I been saying for I don't know how many volumes, how many discussions? This was something that I brought up in
Mm.
the earlier parts of the story. That what if she was going to be married off in some way? And lo and behold, this is exactly what is supposedly happening.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, yeah, and that is the plan currently, and she
Right.
has accepted that outcome at the moment, and it's really sad to see.
Right. Accepting it to, protect Miyuki, his family, and also the people that are relying on her.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, is kind of manipulative, or very manipulative, but she's in a very, very tough position.
really.
It's not only just that she's getting married off; she's getting married off to the Shijo family and Mikado,
Hmm.
and those were also things that we talked about in previous discussions. Recent
Indeed. Although
volumes.
that one's maybe a bit more, I guess, easy to figure out based on his name and all, and the relation to the
Absolutely.
tail of the bamboo cutter. But yes, we have talked about this.
I think the fact that his name was Mikado is like, okay, there's something going on here. But hey, I don't think everybody figured that out. I think we did a good job figuring that out.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's all exciting and interesting, very very much. Like, really, Kaguya's and Mikado's whole, like, their shared past is still largely a mystery.
Hmm.
We did get a little bit of insight through Maki, kind of, and I guess we'll talk about Mikado and that a bit about that later.
Mm-hmm.
But Kaguya's and Mikado's shared past is, like, we don't really know much more about that now than we did before. Like, there's a lot there that I'd really like to learn more about.
Yeah, for sure.
But James, when Kaguya called Miyuki to break up,
that
that
was really tough.
that was such a rough scene to see. Like, it was just, it broke my heart. Seeing Kaguya suggest that they break up, it just broke my heart.
Yeah. And then you have that page at the very end of that chapter where she's crying and she's on
Yeah.
the phone. Oof.
My goodness.
That's a tough one.
It is.
Yeah, it's really sad because we have gone through so much with them, and it doesn't feel like they've been a couple for a long time.
No.
Uh, you know, and to break up like this, it just seems so sudden, unwarranted, and unsatisfying. But that also makes the, I guess, the build up to all of this all the more exciting.
Yeah. But, obviously Miyuki is not accepting this breakup, really. And in some way, I don't think Kaguya is either. Even though, I mean, I think she has accepted it, but there is still a part of her who is hoping for a solution to come, kind of.
Hmm.
Because she gave Miyuki or it was her idea to give Miyuki money.
Yeah,
And I believe she
true.
she knew that he would be able to do something with that money. And maybe she even knew that he would be able to increase the amount of money.
Well, let's compare it to the Tale of the Bamboo Cutter,
Exactly.
where, yeah, Kaguya Hime gave the what was it, farmer? I can't remember. It gave basically
The
the
emperor,
person she
actually,
loved
or
that.
I believe it was the emperor.
Oh, it was the emperor.
Actually, yeah, I think, or at least I believe there may be different iterations of the folktale, but
I can't remember.
the one I've read, it was the emperor actually.
Ah, but he never drank it. The
No.
vial. It was a vial.
Mm-hmm.
So the comparison there is that Kaguya wants Miyuki to use it, just like supposedly Kaguya Hime wanted her lover to use the vial.
Exactly. So we are finally kind of here at the end of the story.
Right. Took us 24, 23 volumes or so from when we got that, scene between Miyuki and Kaguya on the on the roof of the school talking about the moon, and he makes that proclamation. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, that was in one of the very earlier volumes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Oh wait, did I have anything else about Kaguya? Let's see. No one is coming to the council office with her gone. It shows surprisingly, how much of a glue or a bonding agent she was for the council.
Yeah.
All of them were there because of her, except for really Ishigami. um, I mean, Ishigami obviously grew to have a strong friendship with her, and
Yeah.
I think he was very lonely without her being there. But he was there because of Miyuki at first. But both Miyuki and Chiko were there only for Kaguya.
Yes.
He really had zero interest in everybody else. Maybe Chiko would be okay with Miyuki, coming visiting the office maybe once or twice a week.
Uh-huh.
But next time he tries something stupid, she'd be like, "Oh no, I gotta go. I'm not helping you with anything."
Yes.
But yeah, Kaguya was really the person that brought them all together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess Miko's another one, but it worked better in my head. But still, I do think that Kaguya's an important piece and all that.
Yes, very crucial. I agree. Next, let's talk about Miyuki Shirogane. He's leaving for America next week.
Ah!
Like, I can't believe it's that close.
Jeez. Time flies. Oh, gosh. Everything is happening so fast.
Right. Yeah, because, I mean, I can't remember if it was changed at any point, but I believe at least at some point further back in the manga, it was established that he would go to America in September. Does that mean we're already in, like, August or September? I guess so.
I don't know.
Like, time must have flown a lot in the last few volumes, if that's the case. But then again, like, maybe the plan was to go a little earlier or something, so I could be wrong about that. But yeah, either way, he's going there next week, so they are very, very short on time.
So, to clarify, was he planning on not being there for? It was for the last semester of the third year, right? That's when he wasn't going to be there, or was it the entire third year? Because they're already third years, right?
Exactly. So it would have to be that he would leave roughly halfway through the third year, I guess, or something like that.
Gotcha.
Well, that he would leave after summer break, I think was the plan.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But since then he would start at like when they start in America.
Right.
But they're still in school, so how can it only be a week away? I'm confused.
Well, didn't they? Was it the last volume? Didn't they have their final dance and everything together?
Like the French student event.
Yeah, wasn't that during summertime?
I don't know actually. Maybe.
Was that after? Well, anyway, that probably pointless to talk about, but yeah, it does feel like that time has sped up a little bit.
Hopefully, next volume will make it clear where we are time wise, because I would like to know. But anyway, Miyuki, as we kind of talked about a little bit, he received 1 billion yen.
He haggled, man.
Yeah, very, very efficiently.
I love that moment. It's so good. And then, Ai's kind of expressing her disappointment, and he's like, "Did I say I've given up on her?" It's like, whoa. I mean, I think it was pretty clear that he was doing it for that purpose.
Yeah.
But it was pretty epic. He has those one-liners and epic moments when he's caught up in the moment. This has been established in previous arcs.
Definitely.
he'll think back on this and be like, "Oh my gosh, that was so cringe."
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, now he has the money to fight against the Shinomiya family, and he's assembling a team to bring Kaguya back from the moon.
Avengers assemble.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very epic.
I mean, with Miyuki, it's just exciting to see where they go from here, and we'll talk about that in predictions. It's just this volume felt like a established or a setup. It's like, hey, now the plan is going in action. Let's see how it all pans out.
Exactly. So it's very exciting. Well, I like how now that we're at the end of the story, and how I mentioned before also, like how we're having events happening that mirror the original folktale, and that are very much at the end of that folktale, like with the immortality elixir being the 1 billion yen here and whatnot. And even though we're there, and it's basically the same event happening, except obviously completely different setting, and ultimately, yeah, really a very different story as a whole, to be fair. But it is that event happening. However, it's deviating from the folktale here, like truly deviating with how Miyuki is using the gift that he got from Kaguya, and how from this point onward, I feel like anything can happen.
True to his word.
Exactly, he's true to his word. He's going after her, but it's like it's exciting in a new kind of way. I think that for this story now that it has like blatantly strayed away from the original folktale. So at this point, anything can happen.
Well, and because of that, I don't think it's going to be a sad ending. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it would match the tone of the story, do it justice. And I think it would deviate from the original folktale enough to be its own thing and be
right.
a fun twist on it. So yes, I think that they will succeed. Well, we'll talk about the predictions, but I think it's going to be a happy ending.
In one way or another, yes, I agree. All right then. That was all on Miyuki?
Yeah.
And next up, let's talk about Miko Ino.
Okay.
By now, so much time has passed as we were talking about that I am sure that we missed her birthday in the story. I've been talking about it for probably several volumes, like trying to predict that, oh, it'll happen in the next volume. But at this point, I feel quite sure that it's past May 5th. The story missed it. But her birthday is coming up exactly 1 week after this podcast episode releases, like real world time. And mark my words, I will not miss her birthday. I will write about it on Twitter. Even if Akasaka doesn't, I will.
I'm so bad remembering birthdays.
Oh yeah, I believe we missed Chika's and Yu's birthday on March 3rd.
Yeah. You know how hard it was to remember my own birthday? Jeez.
That's rough. But I kind of understand why Miko at the beginning of this volume she felt like she had been too forward with you, and that she didn't feel like, or like she felt like it would be too much for her to, I guess, spend a lot of time with him. She kind of felt that way in the beginning, because to be fair, a lot has happened between them, especially in the previous volume, and well, obviously a lot more happened in this one, but I guess we'll get to that. But I can understand her feeling of seeming too forward and like being afraid of coming off that way.
I mean, it is not an uncommon feeling, but it's also a very common overthinking moment.
Absolutely. Yes.
I mean, even Kobachi is like, "You're overthinking this." She's like, no. It's also funny because she doesn't want to be, too aggressive, And then she proceeds to be very aggressive.
Although
Maybe
it wasn't
unknowingly,
exactly
but...
right. Yeah, right. Maybe unknowingly. I guess it's hard to say exactly. But I mean, so yeah, about that. Yeah, she noticed like that someone was stalking her or watching her. Which, by the way, I was a bit surprised that you didn't notice also that he was being watched, because he's also been known to be quite perceptive. But I guess he had a lot on his mind, so I guess maybe it makes sense that he.
Chica noticed.
Yeah, even Chica noticed. I guess Yu's the only one who didn't. But either way, yeah, and how they somehow kind of used Miko's fear of being stalked to her advantage. Like, we don't know if it, like, I don't think it was her idea. I think it was one of her friends who suggested that they make you go home with her.
Yeah, it was Onodera and Kobachi, I believe.
Right, they were there. We don't know specifically who suggested it, but yeah, I believe it was one of those two. Maybe Shiranui, she was there as well. She didn't follow them to the student council chamber, so maybe it wasn't her. Either way, this stalker story did turn into something very nice for Miko and Yu, as they got to go home to Miko together. And oh my god, I was squealing while I read some of those pages with them together. Oh my gosh, that was a little too much. Not too much in a bad way. Just too much for me to handle in the moment. Just like touching faces and holding hands, and cuddling and like almost kissing. It was very hot.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was super steamy, super. Well, okay, maybe I won't say super steamy, but it was.
I mean, it was pretty steamy.
I don't know how to put it into words, but I liked what I saw. I liked the tease. I thought how it all ended was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So Miko is definitely kind of scared of a stalker type thing.
Yeah.
But do you think she's also taking advantage of the fact that Ishigami was the one that took her home?
I don't actually think so in this instance.
Really?
Like, sure, we have seen her kind of have those types of schemes in the past, but in this instance, I think she was genuinely creeped out by the by the idea that someone might be stalking her, and like genuinely upset and scared about that. Because I think if she had been scheming here on some level, I think either the narrator or her thought monologue would have made that clear for us. That's how I view it, at least.
Well, and to that point, I think that's not necessarily true. I think it would still be kind of a, I guess, subconscious thing that she'd be taking advantage of this moment. Which I do kind of believe that is the case. But what makes me believe that she is genuinely afraid of a stalker is that she didn't think she was making the first move, which is just ridiculous to me. But whatever. Well, I guess no one thinks they make the first move. I guess maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless they say I'm making the first move. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, but I liked your point there about that, because yeah, if she genuinely doesn't have any or didn't have any ulterior motives in that kind of a way, then yeah, she wouldn't have viewed her inviting him to her home as being a move in that kind of a way.
And inviting someone to your home, despite what anime may tell you, is not automatically this sexual romantic environment. It can be, I guess, but it doesn't automatically turn that way, even if no one else is home. It's not necessarily like that.
Yeah.
But Miko made it like that. She really did. I mean, I guess you did put his hand on her head, but then she went and put it on her face.
Yeah, she did.
Like that. I mean, it was very cute, but it's like, what do you expect? Like, what do you? And then you like grab his hand the whole time, and then it has to be cut. I don't know. Like, I know this all makes sense for Miko, I don't blame Ishigami whatsoever for taking it the way he did, and maybe Miko did. So I agree with you that it was, she was afraid, but I think maybe there was this subconscious move on her part, like she was just doing this subconsciously.
I can buy that. I mean, yeah, maybe like doing it subconsciously because she has feelings for this guy.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And that's why she would act like, oh, he's making the first move.
Right, exactly, yeah. So it is funny, and it's also beautiful, I think, how they both interpreted it as if though the other one was the one who made the first move. And I guess it can be debated probably further about who actually made the first move, as we kind of have been talking about a little bit here. But what I thought was really funny was how the narrator says that it doesn't matter who made the first move. In love, the important thing is timing. And I don't know, to me it's almost like the narrator has gone through a character arc of his own from the beginning of the story up until he said that here. But yeah.
Wait, yeah. Maybe love isn't war.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Like I was almost expecting something like
that. Yeah, no, I hadn't really even thought about the whole theme of the series, love is war, that whole thing, until you mentioned it. But you're exactly right. I mean, normally in this situation, the other person would be waiting for the other one to their crush to make the first move, right. At least according to these characters. But in this case, they both made the first move without realizing they made the first move.
Right.
So yeah, it's very interesting, and I do think timing is that's there's some truth to that.
Absolutely. I also thought that Miko was playing it really cool during that scene at her home with you. Like, obviously, the scene was kind of mostly written from his perspective. It was his thoughts that we were following along with, and not Miko's. Mm-hmm. But Miko was, she was talking about things. She seemed quite calm once they were in her home. And while she was holding Yu's hand, she was just blabbering on about all sorts of other types of things. Which, first of all, I thought was a little funny in the moment, especially like with Yu's thoughts being like the complete opposite, because he was just kind of freaking out on the inside. But I also, it got me thinking, like, what if that was kind of her method to kind of cope with the potential nervousness or whatever you want to call it. Like, she was basically putting her focus elsewhere by talking about different things, and maybe that helped her stay calm.
I can see that.
So yeah, and I think it fits with Miko. Like, so maybe that was an elaborate kind of strategy from her end. And I guess in that vein, yeah, maybe some of her moves were intentional. After all, maybe.
Let me just say that when you tell someone, "I want you to hold me,"
yeah,
and they proceed to hold you, and you think they make the first move, something is not adding up. I'm just saying.
He was stroking her hair before that.
But is it? But isn't that holding? I don't know. I don't know.
It's arguable. It's debatable.
It's debatable. But anyway, I've come to terms with it. It's fine. And at the end of the day, it was really cute, but nothing happened. So
yeah,
we got Kaguya cockblocked. Oh gosh, am I allowed to say that?
Yes, you are.
But
yeah, we really did. I was so mad at Kaguya for calling in that moment. Oh my gosh, how dare she? No, but I was happy I was happy to hear from her, but I was also mad. Anyway, so actually, one of the things that Miko was talking about during that scene before things got a little steamier, it sounded like she was about to say that her goal of becoming the student council president isn't as important to her anymore, perhaps, or something along those lines.
She was definitely having doubts.
Exactly, precisely. And it seems like that is partially because she has already achieved several of her goals that she kind of set out to achieve, probably, or some of them from a young age, like the campfire bonfire, for example, and and having gotten the chance to actually be part of the student council in the first place, like at all, has also been a big thing for her. But I also think it could be because she, or I believe it definitely is because she has kind of mellowed out quite significantly, and she might not necessarily feel the need for that kind of a platform anymore, like to have that to achieve the things that she wants necessarily. Um, but it was a bit vague. I don't know if this is necessarily confirmation that she has given up on becoming the next student council president. I think there's still a possibility that she will do that, but it's still interesting, I think, to see her, I guess, even just kind of ponder the idea of kind of letting go of that.
I totally see what you're saying, and I think there could be some truth to it, but we don't get. I feel like we don't get the full story because we
No.
suddenly switch to Ishigami's perspective, and he's talking about how silky smooth her hair is, which jealous, but it feels like his thought monologue overtakes what she's talking about.
True.
So we miss like a chunk of what her conclusion is, almost as if it was a gag. It like what she's saying is probably legit, but for the purpose of the story, it was never meant to be heard in full, which is a shame because if she is really having doubts about that, I would have liked to hear,
Yeah.
what her entire thoughts are. But maybe the purpose was more so that she was just, like you said earlier, trying to calm herself down and just having a chat with a friend, making yourself comfortable.
Right.
But
Yeah. I definitely am also curious to know, I guess, the full extent of her ramblings there. But man, now I really want to know. But I don't know. I kind of doubt we'll get to see this specific, like revisit this specific part again. But maybe at least something in future volumes about her venting about her feelings about that. I would love to see that.
I mean, their story can't end here, right?
Yeah, no
There's
way,
what,
no way.
3 more volumes, right? Is it 3?
Yes, 3 more volumes.
3 more volumes. I mean, obviously, right now Kaguya is a big focus, and I'm sure that preceding chapters are really gonna hit that hard. But they're not done yet, right? Like,
Oh no, for sure not. I mean, even this book gave Miko and you more focus than I kind of expected it to. So
mm,
with that in mind, I still think that they are going to get a good amount of focus. Like maybe not the main focus, but a good amount of focus for the remainder of the story. Still, so yeah, there's still a lot that we can get from them, I believe.
yeah, I agree.
So I'm very excited. But is there anything else on Miko?
No, no, I exhausted all my Miko points.
All right then. Then let's move on to Yu Ishigami. I really liked the chapter where like that was basically mostly just his thoughts. It was like the second or third chapter of this volume.
Uh
Um,
huh.
like that was one of my favorite chapters. Where we just really got to dive deeply into his head. Really, I thought that was really
Mm.
nice, and like we understand like how he feels about Miko really clearly for the first time. Like we knew that he had developed feelings, but I think this one gave us a more like a very clear idea as to kind of where he's at on that, as well as it managed or he managed to understand Tsubame in a way that he hadn't understood her before, and like he was able to let go of her thanks to that. I thought that
Yeah,
was beautiful. It's amazing. It was a really emotional chapter to me.
yeah. It was nice to see him come to acceptance of her rejecting him, and even saying it was an act of kindness in a way,
Yeah.
uh, which I think is a fair thing to say, which is
Yes.
surprising because I probably would usually think that's a little ridiculous, but considering who we're talking about, I do think that, and the circumstances as well. I think I think it was truly Tsubame trying to be kind and
For sure.
letting him move on.
Yeah, I mean, she went out of her way to give him that rejection.
Yeah,
Like that's more than a lot of rejections entail. I feel like.
yeah, yeah. in that chapter, I really got a sense of Miyuki's loneliness as he's the only one there, and
Use
he's kind of
loneliness.
oh, did I say Miyuki?
Mm.
I meant Ishigami's loneliness, and how he's the only one in the student council room, and that the support crutches he's had for a good amount of his high school life are suddenly just gone. Uh, I think that there's a bit of loneliness, and I think that kind of leads him to
Yeah.
these. It eventually leads him to some good conclusions, but he does get a bit depressed and he
Yeah.
gets emotional and whatnot, which is, I think, very normal. Like sometimes loneliness will hit you, sometimes depression will hit you out of the blue,
Yeah.
and that's okay. And I don't think this volume or this chapter makes fun of that or
No.
says that that's not normal. Although I will say that Ishigami said, "Would things be different if I were normal?" Which I don't know how many of us have thought that. I definitely thought that before,
Dude, me too.
and it's like I think it makes Ishigami even more relatable. Not to say like, oh my gosh, she's like me for real, but in that I think these are doubts that we have about ourselves a lot of the time, especially when we're dealing with breakup and loneliness.
Yeah.
That to have this acknowledgement just shows that it's okay, and that not only is it okay to have those emotions, it'll eventually turn out for the better, or it'll be okay. Good things can still happen.
Exactly.
Anyway, so that's kind of what I got out of that, and I,
Mm.
along with the whole closure with Tsubame thing.
Yeah, no, it was a really, really good chapter. I loved the deep dive into Yu's kind of psyche.
Although when that chapter started and he was not sure about Miko's feelings, it was like the romance is on the rocks. Like, gosh, you leave these guys for a couple chapters and it's like they hardly knew each other.
Yeah, it makes sense though. I think.
Yeah, I think for particularly younger people.
Yeah, and to like second guess oneself and
Yeah.
things like that, it happens a lot. But during his romantic moment with Miko, another thing besides the stuff that we already talked about in the Miko segment, one thing that I really, really liked was kind of how in his mind he realized that his heart was pounding like it did because he's holding hands with this girl. That was how it was worded, with this girl, which to me implies like this specific girl, aka Miko. And obviously, yeah, we know that he has feelings for her and everything, especially by now. But I just thought it was really romantic, kind of for him to think about like for him to specifically think about his heart pounding like it does because Miko specifically is holding his hand. I think it's really cute. So yeah, just a very small thing that I liked very much.
From that same chapter, Miko brings up the student council thing, and Ishigami says, "Well, I mean, really, I don't need the student council anymore. I have so many other connections now." So it makes me wonder what his future is with the student council. It doesn't seem like Miko is going to stop, although we're still unsure about her thoughts about becoming student president. But Ishigami is like up in the air. It's not quite
Right.
certain.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what he chooses to do with his future. I of course hope that he stays on the council with Miko.
Yeah.
But whatever makes him happy.
So I really quick got to talk about that phone call from Kaguya.
Yeah.
We already mentioned the the comedic implications, but I'm kind of like conflicted on if that call was really necessary to be towards Ishigami. I get that they have a good friendship, a strong friendship, and I really appreciate that. But at the end, she just called the Miyuki anyway, so it's like, why
Yeah.
did she have to go through Ishigami?
Yeah.
What was the point?
I thought about it as kind of this thing that kids do, teenagers do, where instead of approaching someone themselves, they ask their friend to do it for them. You
True.
know,
Yeah,
which and
that's very true.
Kaguya is only 17 years old, so I think she can still be classified as being in that age when that's kind of a thing that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can sort of see that, but then she realized that you wouldn't do it. Like he didn't want to do it. He couldn't do it. So she was kind of forced to do it herself. But but yeah, I guess initially she tried to avoid that.
Yeah. It just felt a little not warranted, but we did get it did end up going to getting more about Kashiwagi, her situation, and
Exactly. Mm.
things like that. So I guess it wasn't terrible, but at the end of the day, it was really just a cockblock.
Yeah, ultimately. Although I also kind of, or well, having talked about it now for a bit, I actually really enjoy kind of or kind of how it shows us as readers how much Kaguya was struggling with all of that. Like it was really hard for her to give Miyuki that decision, so she initially couldn't bear to do it at all.
True.
And it kind of just puts things into perspective a little bit extra.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Next, let's talk a bit about Maki Shijo. And I guess we can talk about her brother Mikado a little bit at the same time. Maki does provide information about Mikado, but as I said a little bit earlier when we talked about Kaguya, there's still a lot of mystery surrounding Mikado's past with Kaguya. Like exactly why is he doing what he's doing? Why does he call her princess? And why does Kaguya seem to dislike him? Like all of those are questions that I would love answers to in in at some point in the last 3 volumes.
Mm-hmm.
So while we didn't get any answers to that here, Maki did at least tell us other things about Mikado that we didn't really know before. So that's still nice.
Yeah, and I like how we saw him working behind the scenes, really. I mean, they're clearly going after saving Kaguya. Like that is Mikado's motive,
Mm-hmm.
and how he's using the corporate world and brown nosing to these middle-aged men uh to get into a position to become the next head of the Shijo family. I don't think I realized he was going to be the head.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe
No,
that was
that's
something that was
interesting.
established earlier, but it definitely made it its point now because he clearly has the ability to, well, suck up to a lot of people.
Yeah. Right. And so, yeah, it's definitely nice to kind of know his plans and whatnot, even though we don't know exactly why he's doing them and everything.
Well, other than it's for Kaguya.
Precisely. So we do at least know that he's on our side, or he's on the main character's side, which is nice. It's just that his solution is obviously not as great of a solution as it could be if our student council characters manage to save Kaguya without Mikado. And I think he's clearly aware of that as well. Like he will save her his way if they aren't able to save her their way.
Hmm.
But I was also thinking like if the student council and their team do successfully rescue Kaguya in whichever manner they decide on, probably Chiga's plan, but we'll talk a bit more about that later. If they do succeed either way, then all of Mikado's effort will essentially go to waste, and this is something that he's been working on for 10 years supposedly. um, so yeah, we do ultimately want their plan to go through rather than his, like if we get to choose, but it's still a bit of a shame for him to having put all this effort in for nothing, kind of.
Well, I think even Mikado wants their plan to succeed over his.
Yes, I think so as well.
He basically is silently cheering on Miyuki as he's about to go into this fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel too bad for him that has this all planned. If anything, I think
No,
it's pretty amazing of him, to at least think of something in case things do go wrong, or someone else is not able to save her.
precisely. Yeah, I think so as well. It's just a bit of a shame for because he's been working on this longer than anybody, and if his plan doesn't get to be used, it's just a lot of effort going to waste. But yeah, it was really interesting to get to see more on him and understand him a bit better here.
Yeah.
Next up, let's talk about Chika Fujiwara a little bit.
Bringing in her own plan,
Yeah, unpredictable Chika is unpredictable.
Yep.
Yeah, and what a plan she had.
I mean, it's a solid plan. It's just impressive to see how much she's collected using her connections.
Yeah.
And how much she cares about Kaguya. It's not just this, infatuation with her that she's her closest friend. Like, no, I'm going to save Kaguya whether you're going to do anything or not, Miyuki. It's
yeah, hell yeah.
it's also very Chika, but with how the story was going, you kind of don't expect it at the moment. But I'm glad it feels like Chika's doing something. I think some people may have thought she was a little bit useless, other than just being very funny. But I think this moment shows a little bit that, yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to having Chika in this lineup.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, her plan is my favorite plan for sure, and I believe it's going to be the one that they'll stick with. I mean, even Maki seemed to think so. So I think that probably means that they'll go with that plan. So I'm very, very excited to see how that's gonna go.
Just to clarify, the plan is to make her the head of the Shinomiya clan.
Yes.
Or at least get someone in that position that is close with Kaguya, i.e. Unyo. But yeah, whether or not that succeeds, it remains to be seen, and I have my thoughts and predictions. The other thing is she mentions that we've kind of taken as a joke previously is that she's going to be the next prime minister or the a woman prime minister or whatever.
Yeah.
And Ishigami takes it as a joke, but she's like, I'm serious. And I don't know. I think I kind of toyed with this earlier. Is like, what if she actually did want to become the prime minister?
Yeah.
And I think this kind of proves it.
I believe she will become the prime minister.
Hey, I like it. Let's go. Mandatory, everybody does the Chika dance every morning. That's your morning exercises.
What a world to live in. I would like to live in that world. Wow.
Nah, it probably she'd ban people from going above their class or something like that. No. That's even worse. No, she'd be a great prime minister, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Ramen shop in every corner. There you go.
Yeah, it would probably just be in general just a lot more fun than the world is currently, or at least that's what I think.
I would hope so. That's all I have.
All right, then next let's talk about Ai Hayasaka a little bit. She becomes Miyuki's bodyguard, and obviously that led to some
I'm glad.
Some funny parts, and yeah.
Because the previous volume, we're a little bit worried about where she was, what was going on.
Oh, that's right.
So it was good to see that she wasn't missing. She was in hiding, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that actually, but yeah, that is very good. That she wasn't missing as well. Something that I got like the feeling of more and more kind of, or that I have started to get like feel more and more, and I think this volume kind of took it even a little bit further than before, is this idea like that I may have some kind of feelings for Miyuki, and that it's not just a playful kind of act. I don't know. Like it's definitely still dubious. Like it's not clear,
right?
Quite obviously, but I don't know, man. I this volume got me like a little, ever so slightly further along on that suspicion.
Yeah, I agree with you. She's definitely a tease, and she enjoys doing that. But at the same time, especially when she was Husky or whatever one of her alternative girl names.
I believe it Husky. Yeah.
She seemed a little bitter about it, and and maybe is more so because she lost.
Right.
But I think there could be something said to not getting the man, or maybe she does have some of these feelings, but anyway.
I got that feel or that vibe kind of even more in the in the chapter before that when she was with Miyuki and Unyo, like in her first appearance in this volume, kind of in that scene.
Oh yeah.
When she was like blushing and stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's hard to say, but regardless, she's obviously very supportive of Miyuki and Kaguya's relationship, so it's not like she's going to be like competition in any sense. But still, I am curious still about her true feelings.
Yeah. She also sees Miyuki as a true friend, someone that she's been able to reveal her true self to.
That's true.
So in that sense, he is very important to her.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe that is only what it is, just like a friendship, kind of
But
a love, kind of.
But that could always turn into something romantic, I suppose.
I suppose.
But hey, at this point they hadn't broken up yet, so it's not okay. Although
no.
now they're broken up, so I guess it's fair game. Miyuki wouldn't do that.
No. Next up, Kobachi Osaragi. As we were kind of discussing a little bit earlier, we don't know for a fact who came up with the idea to have you go with Miko home, but I'm choosing to think that it was Kobachi. Partially because she was the first one that we saw talking to you in the student council after that little skip over to that scene, but also because she's Miko's oldest friend, and I also think, taking the previous arc with her and Miko into account, I feel like if she was the one to come up with that idea, it would really even further redeem her in a way. Plus, it has been made clear by now that she does support their relationship, and I think that's really nice to see. Kind of, regardless of it, whether she came up with the plan or not, she is in support of that, and yeah, I'm just really glad to see that.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of if she came up with it or not, I mean, she was definitely supportive of it, and was one of the persons to bring it up. So good for her.
Absolutely. Next, we got Nagisa Kashiwagi.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so apparently, she has this whole, thing where she takes the family status very seriously, claiming in this volume that she would have never dated Tsubasa if it wasn't for his family status.
What the freak?
That one hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
Damn. They've been dating since volume 1, and now we learn this.
What?
Wow.
I mean, I always had this slight intuition that she wasn't as into him as he was into her.
Definitely.
Although maybe they kind of ebbed and flowed a bit.
Yeah, I mean, she got him to change a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Like his the way he dresses, the way he speaks, like a lot about him changed because of her. And yeah, I think that kind of speaks toward her not necessarily having liked the way he was initially.
And look, maybe those I think feelings have occurred clearly, maybe. But yeah, just shocking that that's kind of the real reason why she decided to go out with him. I mean, she even helped change his grades, which at the time felt like just maybe a girlfriend helping out her boyfriend, helping him get better grades and following his dream or whatever. Yeah. But now it just feels like, okay, well, if we're gonna make this worth it, you gotta make sure you become a doctor.
Precisely.
It's
yeah, it's really
so dubious.
yeah. That was a very I like how, to me at least, this reveal is both comedic and dark at the same time in a really funny kind of clashing way, and I love that.
And to be fair to her character, this is kind of on point. She's had these dark moments, like hiring as a private investigator, or her whole stance on true love and whatnot. Which this could clearly explain that whole true love thing.
Yeah.
it seems like someone who's very calloused and very much kind of given up on the idea of finding this fairy book tale love kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a little bit sad though, because I mean, I kind of feel bad for Tsubasa, but I feel really bad for Kashiwagi in that she felt like she couldn't really choose.
Right.
She had to choose someone that would appeal to her family, which it just so sad.
It's really sad, very tragic. But I do also sort of have a feeling that by now she does have romantic feelings for him that have developed.
Right. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
Right, yeah. Like luckily it worked out. Obviously it may not have, but I think she was lucky in that it did.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was this whole part or like earlier in the story where she was jealous. She was feeling jealous that maybe he was going out or that he was cheating on her with Maki, you know. And how I believe it was Chika who helped her realize that that jealousy means that she loves him.
Mm.
And how so I believe we've gotten enough hints to that, so I think that's ultimately nice, even though it is sad kind of at the base.
Yeah, I mean, also not being friends with Kaguya, which, well, not being, that's not that I misspoke. She was only friends with Kaguya because of the social connections there, right?
Yeah.
So that's a bit dark and kind of touches on Kaguya's worries a few volumes back, where
Right.
she had to test people to see how they were, and I don't know if Kashiwagi got tested, if she passed it, I can't remember.
I don't think so. I could be wrong though, but I don't think so.
If she did get tested and passed, she was able to hide that pretty well.
Yeah.
Which, man, this girl is really conniving.
Yeah.
In that case.
Wow, yeah, definitely.
Don't underestimate Kashiwagi. She is
Nope,
a
she's
force to be
powerful.
reckoned with. Yeah. But anyway, I do think she does have a genuine friendship for Kaguya and a genuine love for Tsubasa at this point. It's just
Yeah.
how that all started is not necessarily one from what would call genuine.
Right. Then next, let's talk a bit about Unyo Shinomiya.
Okay.
We learned that he essentially raised Kaguya, and I think I believe all three of the brothers are kind of old enough so that they could pass for her father. So maybe it wasn't too strange, but still it was interesting to learn about that.
I mean, quote unquote raised. I don't know. He
Uh,
didn't live in the house, right?
Fair. No, that is fair. That is fair.
But he was the one that was providing for her and making sure her
Yeah.
needs were met and whatnot. And sending her all the way to Tokyo because he thought that was best to keep her away from the family.
Precisely. So
which I think
yeah,
that was a pretty cool reveal.
definitely. Yeah, exactly. Learning that he does genuinely care about her, even though he will never admit it. He does care about Kaguya, and that is both sweet and really just in general really nice to know that she has a family member who cares about her.
Yeah, it's things like that that it's like, I know personality is something you gain over time, and you can learn people's quirks and whatnot. But the way they both handle the situation, how they act, it's just very Shinomiya, and it's like,
Yeah.
can't these two have at least one parent that's the same? Like, come on. But
Yeah.
I
Remains to
don't
be
know.
seen.
Remains to be seen. But there's another character that over time is just kind of softened a bit. He's not as bad as when we were in the Kyoto arc. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we were pretty much hating on him at that point. But
Uh-huh.
you gotta love characters that have more to them.
For sure.
I mean, a lot of times in anime, I think you have this antagonist who only seems to be just this terrible person, and then after the arc is over, you find out, oh, actually, I sympathize with this person. That happens quite often.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
some of those complexities don't come to light until after the fact. But anyway, that's not the case with Unio. But I like where we are with him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's like a wonderful person. I mean, he's clearly stained by the Shinomiya traditions and just mindset, but he's he's been a much better brother to Kaguya than one would have thought when he was first introduced.
Right. And next we got Oko Shinomiya, the eldest brother.
Now this guy.
This guy. We knew that the Shinomiya family had somehow been responsible for Daddy Shirogane's company failing. We knew like a little bit about that earlier, but here we actually get to learn that it was Oko's own grudge that made it so that he did this, and he even waited for like the moment that when his action would cause the most harm to Daddy Shirogane before he did what he did. What an absolute villain this man is. Oh my gosh.
How petty can you get?
Right, yeah. Goodness. Yeah, I feel like he is definitely becoming like the primary antagonist of the story as a whole here.
Yeah. And if it turns out that Miyuki is still a thorn in his side, he said he'll hunt down the family and kick them out of Japan. It's like, oh my gosh. Well, at least he didn't say they murder them.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him.
No. Yeah, he was definitely intimidating in that scene.
Yeah, man.
Then there's the middle brother that we got to meet for the first time in this volume, Seiryu Shinomiya. Apparently not cut out to be a leader, but he was the guy who gave the money, the $1 billion, or not dollars, yen, to Miyuki.
A small loan of 1 billion yen.
Yes. I wonder if he's gonna get flack, like from Oko or something, for having given Miyuki all that money.
No idea.
Either way, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to his character here.
Nah.
The last character I have noted down here is Daddy Shirogane.
Okay.
And it's about him keeping in touch with Ai's mom, Nao Hayasaka. I proposed...
The ship lives?
I proposed this ship, back in like volume 11. A ship between Nao Hayasaka and Daddy Shirogane. And I mean, yeah, it hasn't sunk at least.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm still banking on that one.
I mean, we were talking about Shirogane and Hayasaka potentially having some sparks, maybe Hayasaka has feelings for Shirogane, but it was really the parents that we were talking about.
Indeed, exactly. Yeah. But I don't have anything else on Daddy though.
Gosh, if that actually happens, I could see the doujins coming out where Hayasaka becomes the stepsister or something like that.
Oh no.
Falling in love with my stepsister? What?
Oh no. Now I'm torn.
You're like, now I really want that.
Well, do you have any other character you want to talk about?
No, that's it.
All right then. Let's move into the comedy, and I'll say right off the bat, I have never taken this few comedy notes for any volume discussion before.
Same.
But I figured we might as well still have the segment because we've had it from the start, and we might as well have it to the end of our Kaguya-sama days.
Right.
My first comedy note is about how Kei comes home and she misinterprets Miyuki and I like talking in his room. That was really, it was such a clever way to kind of like, I think for Akasaka to make that work, I think. Because like for us reading and knowing the situation, it made sense with kind of what they said. But it also made perfect sense for Kei to misinterpret it the way she did. So like you could totally buy both sides, and I thought that worked really well.
Right. Yeah, that whole situation was pretty funny. Seeing Kei on the toilet, just trying to like compose herself, just like, oh my gosh, what is happening? It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And parallel to that, I teasing Miyuki the entire time with the different outfits and everything. I mean, that was really funny. Kind of going down memory lane a bit, but it was really funny to see, especially when she found out that Miyuki has a thing for the maid outfits. She just really egged him on that one.
Yeah, there were some outfits that we hadn't seen before as well that I thought were really nice.
Yeah.
Like I think my favorite one was the one that I believe she referred to it as like the wild child, where she had like two pigtails. Surprise,
Of course
surprise! I
you would
like the
like that one.
pigtails.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. I like
um,
the first ta-da one where
oh yeah, the one with the lollipop.
the teenage runaway, although
Yes.
maybe I shouldn't say I like that.
Well, you said it.
Uh
Um,
anyway, yeah, so that's arguably probably the funniest chapter in the entire volume. But
I think so.
there are a couple other funny moments that I liked. I mean, besides
Yeah.
Ishigami being really, trying to interpret the whole scene with Miko, I guess that was funny, but also blood pumping, like ooh, romantic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Before that, when they're asking him to take Miko home, Ishigami's like, "Why didn't she just take a cab?" And then Onodera smacks
Yeah.
him.
So dense.
That was great.
Yeah. Uh-huh. The last chapter I thought had one of the funnier moments in the book where Maki came in and
Yes, that was the other
being
one.
the tsundere that she is,
Uh-huh.
she refused to admit that she did it because she cares about Kaguya. I mean, she did it in the end, but it took quite a lot for her to eventually say that.
We've seen that from her before, and how Ishigami is able to get that out of her, but it
Hmm.
was kind of prolonged, but but just the right way. It was great
Yeah,
to see
absolutely.
her finally melt down about that. And then Ishigami's like thumbs up, and Miyuki's like, "Just get that smug smile off your face."
Yeah.
That's it. That's all the
Yep,
comedic moments I had.
that is it. Yep, yep.
Not one mention of Chica in the comedy section. That may
Wow.
be a record. That may be a
Wow.
record.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very well. Moving into predictions then.
Okay.
So, as we briefly mentioned a little earlier, the Kaguya-sama movie has come out since we last made a Kaguya-sama podcast episode,
Indeed.
and the ending sequence of the movie got me speculating about the ending of this manga, like the story as a whole. And
Hmm.
I wrote about it on our Discord server. Now, I wrote this before Volume 25 came out, so I didn't have all this knowledge, but it doesn't really matter. So I figured I would actually read it up because it is definitely tied to predictions. So here is what I wrote. Since the manga has finished now, I wonder if the ending sequence could be alluding to the ending of the story somehow. The visuals depict Kaguya alone in the ruins of the student council chambers, and we see Miyuki's chair fly away from her, like an airplane. This seems to indicate that Miyuki will go to America without Kaguya. It would mirror the folktale about Princess Kaguya nicely if this separation would actually happen by the end of the story. The next part of the sequence, with Kaguya's head literally in the clouds, could represent her longing for Miyuki while he's gone. And the final part of the ending sequence shows Kaguya coming to visit Miyuki in America, presumably, and we see his blue market coming to pick her up at the airport. I believe it's very likely that this is how the story ends. Somewhat bittersweet, but with the hope that they can still visit each other from time to time and video chat often. They're both still on Earth after all, and nowadays it's not so hard to travel abroad. It's an ending that would respect the tragic ending of the folktale while still being fashionably optimistic, befitting of this rom-com. So that was longer than I thought actually. Now that I read it, but that's what I wrote about my predictions there. It's not completely something that I stand by exactly anymore, like 100% in at least in terms of Miyuki and Kaguya being separated by Miyuki going to America. How as that mirroring the folktale separation,
Mm-hmm.
where with Kaguya going to the moon, I don't think that's supposed to mirror that because I think Kaguya going to the moon is what's happening currently in the story, with Kaguya being away from the rest of the cast, like she is. However, ultimately, though, I do still kind of believe that this is likely going to be the end of the story, like how they are going to be separated in different countries, but they're still going to be able to maintain their relationship at this, like even though they are apart for a few years. But during those years that they are apart, they can still go visit each other and stuff like that. So it's not going to be the end of the world. That's kind of my current prediction about the ultimate ending for the story.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting that Kaguya at the very end there, seemingly flying to a foreign country, landing, and then looking at her GPS, potentially seeing Miyuki there.
I mean, it is 100% because they've always been color coded as blue and red, like Miyuki and Kaguya.
Right.
So it's 100% Miyuki.
So, I don't know. I don't know what it's trying to imply there. It's very interesting. Because at this point, it doesn't necessarily seem like that's where the story is going right now. But I could see we do have 3 volumes, so I could see the conflict being resolved, and then she eventually goes to see him in America. Interesting. So, do you mind if we go into some of my other thoughts?
Yeah, go for it.
So regarding the plans that we have in place, usually when it comes to these kind of stories, the plan that either is not said or is the least likely is the one that will happen. That's usually how these stories go, at least in modern day writing. Sometimes you go with the obvious choice, but 9 times out of 10, if the plot explains the plan detail beat by beat, it's not going to happen like that. So with Chika's plan, it probably got the most explanation out of all of them and probably makes the most sense, which makes me worried that, okay, maybe this won't happen. Now, it wasn't every single detail of how they get it done. So there's still a possibility. And I would love to have Chika's idea be the one that comes to fruition. I would be living on cloud 9.
Same. Mm-hmm.
But it also seems like it's the most obvious choice, therefore not the choice that they'll go with. There's also the bombshell to consider that Miyuki has the back of his head, and there's no way that they're not going to bring that up again.
For sure.
That Kaguya could potentially not even be a Shinomiya. Now, that could be used in the Chika scenario. I'm not exactly sure how. Maybe Unyo adopts her into the family, being the head. But that kind of like breaks the whole point of her getting out of the Shinomiya family.
Yeah.
So I really think that if that bombshell is going to be used, the Chika's plan can't really work unless she does become the head or something, and then that happens, and then they're like, okay, no, be gone, get out of here, you're fake. And that way she's free, but it does seem kind of maybe too many steps to get to that process. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about that so far?
I'm kind of hoping actually that the solution isn't just going to be that, oh, she's not a Shinomiya, you're out. It seems too simple, kind of.
It does seem very simple. But then why why else do you have it? Like, what's the point of it then?
Yeah.
It's got to play some sort of factor. Now, granted, Unyo basically considers her a Shinomiya. Ganan considers her a Shinomiya. So the blood aspect may not matter to a fair amount of that family.
That's fair.
It's gonna matter to Oko and Seiryu. They're gonna be like, oh, she's not even blood related. Blah. They're gonna have a fit about it.
But they're still gonna want to use her to their advantage if they can.
True. That's true. So that's the other thing. That goes to the other plan, Mikado's plan, where if she is to be used as a pawn to marry the two families, then the bombshell, boom, she's actually not a Shinomiya. Maybe that kind of makes that whole marriage process null and void.
Yeah.
I actually think the kidnapping thing is while the most stereotypical, maybe the most plausible of the plans that were given. Unfortunately, I don't think the social media plan would pan out. If this was Miko's story, I think it really would. But if she was the main heroine, but yeah, I don't think. And actually, if it was a real world or not a fictional story, I think that would actually be a pretty good plan.
Exactly. Yeah. I think hers really is the most realistic solution.
Yeah.
But that's it. I agree with you. It's probably not going to be how they actually solve it here.
Right. Not in this story. But my plan is that, or my idea is actually there's some sort of middle ground where somehow Shinomiya is able to escape by her own means with help from Miyuki as well. You know,
that would be nice.
Like they kind of meet in the middle instead of just Shinomiya being caught and just waiting to be saved.
Right.
However, I think it still would be nice to see her take some sort of plan of her own and somehow come out on top. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
And somehow still make it satisfying for what Miyuki does. You know what I mean? Like make it so that they're both doing something and that it's still satisfying.
I really want that as well, because then it would really be them meeting at the middle in a way, and it would really show that they both put this effort in for their love, to fight for their love.
Yes, fight for their love. Absolutely.
And I would like to see that from both sides.
Right. Absolutely.
In some way, you know.
I think it'd be really cool if they both have their big epic moment where they somehow are able to reach each other, and that Kaguya says, "I'm glad you, or I knew you would make a move if I sent you that money, or if I gave you that clue. You're part of my plan." And then we see how her plan went, or her idea to escape, her efforts and whatnot. So I think that'd be really cool to see, and not just her being, I guess, missing the entire time. But
though I guess you could, like, I agree. I would like to see more, I guess, from her end as well. Kind of, and see what kinds of effort she puts in. However, I think I would still kind of be fine if we didn't get that, since we could still view her act of giving, or her act of making sure Miyuki got that money. One could view that as a pretty crucial step in her getting rescued or breaking free. So in a way, she's already done something relatively important, or no, very important actually. So I'd say, I guess I'm cool with that being it. Though it would also be nice to have even a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that if she doesn't do anything, then it's a terrible story. I'm just saying, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
And I think that Kaguya wouldn't just really give up in that sense. I don't think she's given up at all at this point.
Right.
One other plan, I want to talk about the Mikado plan again. So let's say that for whatever reason, Miyuki's plan is not working out so great, or maybe he ends up taking in some of Mikado's plan. I don't know. But let's say the marriage actually happens.
Ooh.
What if, or not even that it actually happens, maybe Mikado's plan is that when he marries her, so this is what he's thinking, when he marries her, he immediately divorces her, and that somehow frees her. Like he's able to divorce her, kick her out of the both families, and then she's free that way.
Oh, that's interesting.
But that's not ideal, because then she would be a bit ostracized from that family, and has the, I don't know, stain of a divorce. I don't know if that it has to deal with a divorce. I don't know if that's, it's not a great thing to have experience.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was just a thought I had about Mikado's plan.
Right.
Like the only way I could see the whole marriage situation working out, unless he's like, don't worry, I'll never touch you, I'll never kiss you, I'll never do anything. I'll let you be you, but you're my woman. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Can't wait for volume 26 now. By the way, if all goes according to plan, our Kaguya-sama volume 26 discussion should be the 100th episode of the Umami Manga podcast, when that comes out in, I believe, early August. But yeah, stoked for that.
Nice.
So I suppose that's all for this week, though, right?
Yep. I think we're good.
Sweet. Well, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga. And it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by rating our show on the podcast platforms and subscribing to our channel, Umami Manga, on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about Volume 26. Bye-bye!
See you later! So when are they gonna put a Mario statue in Brooklyn? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Or a Chris Pratt statue.
I was actually thinking Miyamoto, but that's even better.